welcome to one of the biggest weeks of the year in PGA, the Players Championship. We got a killer deal available for a limited time only where you can save 33% off of your first payment to a Run Pure subscription. By using the promo code PLAYERS33, you can knock 33% off your first payment on a Run Pure subscription. Our team has been crushing PGA since day one, and what better opportunity to join Run Pure Sports than a week where we will see some monster tournaments. Last year, BigT won the Players Championship Millie Maker, and our team has not slowed down since, with big wins from Hoop and AP, among others, making Run Pure's PGA team the most elite in the industry. Our members have been on fire too, shipping 2 Millie Makers in the past year. You can find all the best DFS players in our PGA Discord channel, chatting about weekly slates, so get in there today and access all the great info. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel already, make sure you head on over now, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you know when we go live for all of our free PGA shows. We cover main slate and Showdown, so whatever you are playing, we got you covered. Sign up today for a premium subscription to Run Pure Sports and take advantage of our promo for a limited time only. Use the promo code PLAYERS33 to knock 33% off your first payment on a Run Pure subscription. Thanks again, guys, and make sure you head on over to Run Pure to take advantage of that promo code, only available for a limited time, and find out why our members are crushing PGA by accessing our great premium content.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday. Hope you guys and girls all had a good weekend, having a good Sunday. Got a nice little 5-game slate on DraftKings on FanDuel. Locks an hour earlier than usual, 6 Eastern time today. 1 game on an island. Then we have an hour break. So we're going to get off the show in time for you guys to get the look at the content, the cast chart I'm on, Mangone's on. Glock, not sure if you're on course today. I'm on a core. If not, you'll have one in Discord as always. But we all have content today, so you'll have some time to build lineups after the show in between the first lock time. We'll be in Discord as always, answering questions. Glock, I'll head over to you. This is our first live show together. Always like listening to you on the Up to Lock show, on the free shows, your knowledge. Talk to the people, your initial thoughts on the slate, and how's your weekend, man, going?
Yeah, it's been going good. Excited to be on a show with you, Title, for the first time. Met you in Houston the other week with the UFC, so that was good to meet you in person. Get to meet Mangone in person here in a few days or in a week or so, so that's going to be good. I think we'll have some nice synergy on the shows going forward. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting slate for sure. I think Mangone, he always tells me that he likes these type of slates because, like, you know, anytime there's a slate like yesterday where it's like the Spurs and there's just clear value, you know, you basically jam in your 3 or 4 clear value guys, and then you just play 3v3s, 4v4s from there. And like Mangone always DMs me, he's like, I hate these types of slates. So I feel like today is like definitely, you know, it's much tougher because they priced up those New Orleans guys, even though they're on the slate today. You know, they're priced up more specifically on DK. I think on FanDuel, you know, they're still kind of softly priced, so they'll be definitely chalk over there. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting slate. And like, you know, I ran some optos earlier. And anytime you kind of get JaVale McGee popping in like, you know, your top optos, you know, as a reserve off the bench, you're kind of starved for value, it seems. So yeah, it should be an interesting one. Ready to break it down with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I was surprised doing my first initial run, seeing JaVale McGee in there. I was like, I think Ayton's playing. Like, what did I miss? Yeah, he's playing. So we'll dive into that for sure. Gary's in chat. What's going on, Gary? He has the playbook today, I believe, and that is up. So make sure you go check out Gary's playbook. Steve Anthony, my boy, 9K for Halliburton is ridiculous. Hey, Steve, it's Warrington, man. Tyrese, he's that dude. So seeing him up at 9K, get used to it, Steve Anthony. Mangone, I'll head over to you. Initial thoughts on the slate, 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 games. Yahoo locks at 7 p.m. Eastern too. So if you play all the sites out there, if you're playing Yahoo locks at the normal time. It's only 4 games. Then FanDuel, DraftKings, the 5 games, 6 p.m. Eastern. Any initial thoughts on the slate, Mangone?
Yeah, we got Glock sort of up to lock. I mean, not totally, but you know, we're kind of there. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun show. Excited to do this with you guys. The one thing, Glock, you did say it's one of those slates where we're jamming guys. There is just JaVale McGee values, but we are looking at a lot of Pelicans. But the good news is they're priced up, right? Where it's not like, okay, like which 3K guy do I have to play? Because one of them will get there. Like Devante Graham at 6'2" or 6'1", like he can bust at that price. So that's at least the one thing. Yes, there are a lot of them on teams of the Pelicans, but they do have bust potential. So excited to kind of break that all down. And it's one of those slates too, where like, yes, it does locks at 4 o'clock Mountain Time, so 6 o'clock Eastern. We also lost an hour of sleep last night, so it feels even earlier. And on top of that, like we have the first game, which I think it could be fadeable. It depends on the news and how that shakes out, but that could be fadeable where you could just like kick back for an hour and wait to see what some starting lineups are. So there's a lot of ways to play this slate for sure. And then of course you have that one island game where it's like LeBron, I don't know if he got upgraded to probable yet, but he was questionable earlier and I assume he plays, but you just never know with the NBA sometimes, but it should be a fun slate. And we'll break it all down for the people.
Yeah, I'm still seeing LeBron questionable, and we did get the Orlando news before coming on here. Mo Bamba and Suggs are going to play. So I think for the most part, the news in the first game's out. We're going to dive in, though, game by game like always. Appreciate you guys all hanging out with us in chat. Hit that like button as always. And if you're not a member and you want to be one, Players33 is the promo code. Players33 gets you 33% off your first month or your first payment. Includes Saber Sim as well. So make sure you check that out. Head over to Run Pure Sports, Players33, see what it's all about, and get in Discord as well, because Discord, there's nothing like it. The community at RPS, absolutely awesome. So that's enough of that, though. Let's dive into the first game. Again, 5 games on the slate. Keep saying it. Only one locks at 6 p.m. Eastern on FanDuel and DraftKings, but it's important. Philadelphia 76ers, Orlando Magic, 223 total. Philly is favored by 11. Talking about the news, Orlando, Jalen Suggs and Mo Bamba are going to play. Bobo, Jonathan Isaac are out, so nothing big there. As far as Philly, Danny Green is out. That is it for them. Yeah, I mean, Mangone, you're talking about it. Like, can we fade this first game? I think you can and feel fine with it. Embiid, I would say, is the highest raw score on the slate. In my opinion, he has a better price tag on FanDuel than DraftKings. It's easier to get him on FanDuel than it is DraftKings with how the pricing always is over there. But outside of Embiid, Mangone, what are you seeing in this game that you can go to? Because I'm not loving it too much. Like a Matisse Thybulle, if we're talking value, like I don't love going Matisse Thybulle, but man, he's in question, I guess. So what are you seeing in this game?
You know, one big thing to mention is center has a lot of opportunity costs. And I think that Joel Embiid is one of the best raw point plays on the slate. Agree with you on that. The problem is center position's really good today, right? You got Valanciunas, who's an amazing play against Houston. 8.3K though is a hefty tag. You can slide into Jackson Hayes at the center position as well, who I think is a pretty good play. So wouldn't sleep on him. You can always make a case that centers against OKC. Steven Adams is in play. We talked about JaVale McGee was popping as a value. And on top of it, let's say John Collins sits. Well, then you have Clint Capella and Okongwu, who are both value centers, and 5'9" for Capella is too cheap. Now, I know I've skipped around a bunch, but this matters when talking about Joel Embiid, and that's why I'm probably not going to have as much of him. I think he's a good play today, and he's in play as a contrarian spend-up option. If your builds don't spend down for those centers, that's perfectly fine. But currently right now, I'm not really getting to Embiid as much. I think Harden's a fine option too, because again, shooting guard is not great either. Yes, you can make the argument. Devin Booker, you can play him at shooting guard, but like the list kind of ends there. It's like there's no other shooting guards I'm really excited to play. There are some shooting guards you can play, but there's not a bunch that I'm like jumping to play basically. So the point I'm getting at is Harden and Embiid are two of the best, are two really good raw spend options that are going to be very low owned on this slate. Problem is there's other guys that I kind of want to play at those positions. And I think if I do pick one of them as a spend up, I kind of think Harden makes more sense just because of how good the center position is versus the shooting guard position. Again, if you play a Harden, right, you only have to, I only feel like I'm maybe fading like a Devin Booker or something, where if that game blows out where the Suns kill the Lakers, which they could, it's a great game. Just only let Devin Booker play like 28 minutes or so. And of course he could easily get there and have a good game, but Harden could go for 75 and Booker goes for 50 and Booker still did great, but you know, that 75 might be worth it more. So that's kind of my thought process on the Sixers and how I would handle them if I had to pick one spend up from this game. And then the Magic side, I'm really just not looking to play anyone, but it's a pretty easy skip game for me, at least right now at this time.
No, I agree with you for sure. I don't have interest in Magic since we got the injury news they're in. And as far as Philly, I agree with you. I mean, Embiid, Harden, I'm personally on the Embiid train. I think the ceiling's a little greater. But yeah, I think you can fade it and feel good about it. Go to you, Glock. You see it the same way. A fade's very viable. Would you play a Harden or an Embiid? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Mangone hit it on the head. Like, I think Embiid and Harden would be my only interest from this game. Like on the Magic side with Suggs back in, you have Markelle Fultz, Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony. They all kind of take away from each other. So it's kind of tough to like always choose one of those guys from the Orlando side. But yeah, like Mangone hit it on the head. Yeah, I'm sorry about my dogs.
You're fine.
Like if I ran the Optos 150 before I got on, and the shooting guard position.
Glock has a puppy, if no one knows.
Okay, yeah.
How old's the puppy, Glock?
She's doing good, yeah. I just don't want to get him, so we're good.
How old is the puppy, Glock? The people need to know. How old is the puppy? Because that's why it's active.
He's like 4 months now, I think. 5 months. Yeah.
That's tough.
Tough. They're always playing with each other, barking and stuff. So yeah. But all right, they're good now. So yeah, I ran 150 on the Opto before I got on. And like if you look at the shooting guard position specifically, just like Mango said, you have Devin Booker popping the most, and then you literally have Chris Duarte, Lindy Waters, Jalen Suggs, Desmond Bane, Eric Gordon, Tyrese Halliburton. Like if you just look at those lists of names, like man, like Harden could outscore those guys if you combine a few of them together. So as a tournament option, I definitely think they're great. Harden's a great option. But yeah, I'm only playing one team on DraftKings today. So it's like, will I have either Embiid or Harden? Most likely not. But if I was playing 150, I would definitely get over the field. And, you know, you don't have to get too much crazy percentage of them to get over the field. Like Embiid is projected for under 10%. Harden's projected under 10%. So maybe you just sprinkle in like 15 to 20% in your 150 and then you're good. But in regards to my main lineup, that's kind of where I'm at. I do think they're great spend up options as a tournament pivot, but probably won't go there myself.
Yeah, it makes sense. This game's going to be low owned. So the more pieces you add, the more different you get. And it's only 5-game slate. So Embiid can easily be the sub 10% difference maker that gets you there. But it makes sense to fade too, because we still are waiting on some injury news for these other games, some starting lineups. We talked about on, I think it was Wednesday, maybe I don't know what day I was on the show, but Mangone, you're on it too. And the Pelican starters, Najee Marshall ended up being the starter, which we knew there was a chance about, but we didn't know who that guy would be. And Najee Marshall just completely went ham. So waiting for starting lineup sometimes can be very big. Fading this game will allow you to do so. Wait for more injury news. So if you want to play an Embiid to Harden, you can always do that. It's not the best game to get the slate going though. Let's get into the next game, 7 p.m. Eastern. So after this, 1 game at 6, 3 games at 7 p.m. Eastern, and then the Lakers and Suns 2 hours after on an island. So 3 games at 7 right here. Memphis Grizzlies, OKC Thunder, 229 total. Memphis is a big favorite at 13.5. Going to the injury report, OKC's got a lot. Giddey, Lou Dort, Kenrich Williams, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Ty Jerome, Derek Favors, Mike Muscala. All of them are out. Trey Mann is questionable. Then we go to the Memphis side. Dylan Brooks is the only one that's questionable. I mean, SGA is a spend up, can always make sense. He's hooping lately. John Morant, if you want another contrarian spend, I think he fits that category. Jaren Jackson always has upside at 6'3". I think Baisley at 5'2" makes a little sense. Desmond Bane's always a hooper. I think you can go there. I'll throw it to you, Glock. I think this game's definitely better than the last game. Big spread, though. What do you see?
Yeah, the big spread does concern me for sure. Dylan Brooks is questionable. So I think if he's in, it'll stray me away from like the Ja Morant on the Memphis side. I think him being back in would somewhat take away from Ja. I do have interest in SGA. He's coming off a stinker performance, played 31 minutes and dropped 23.75 fantasy points last game and shot 2 of 15. You know, it's kind of surprising to me, a player like SGA, how he plays, for him to shoot so poorly. So I think he's in the conversation to be, you know, kind of as a spend up option. Although, you know, kind of like this first game, I think I could personally avoid it. You know, I think the later games on the slate, like New Orleans, Houston, I think is just too hard to pass up. Obviously, you have Devin Booker in that late game against the Lakers, who don't play any defense. So I think I would be okay with also skipping this game. But personally, SGA would be my only consideration.
Yeah, makes sense. First 2 games, not as you don't like him as much as some of the later, and the Houston Pelicans game. There's obviously news in New Orleans, and then we always like picking on Houston, and there's some news there too. So that game's definitely going to be hard to ignore. Mangone, do you have some interest in these pieces though that you can fill around the premier game of the night for DFS?
Yeah, the Memphis Grizzlies and the Thunder. This is a game that, like, I think the Trey Man news is kind of big. He's still questionable, at least that's what I'm seeing on my end. If he doesn't play, like, I think that's really big for Aaron Wiggins. And I have not played Aaron Wiggins a lot. I played him last game and it worked out, and played him in some of the other ones that were rough spots. But it does feel like who's the secondary ball handler? Like, there is one, right? It's SGA. And typically there's always a second guy that has to handle. And it seems like it is Aaron Wiggins. And he's also blowout proof. If you look at his rotations, you look at the charts. I know K Fallick is not there doing that. He's often watching Nashville Predator games at the live final. So I looked at the chart. It looks good for Aaron Wiggins. I'm just going to say it's chart man approved, I think. So I think he's good for if the game is close. I think he's good for it to blow up, but I need Trey Man to be out. I think that's going to be the key. And if Trey Man's in at 5-5, he certainly could get there and be an option that literally no one is considering, because I think then he slides into being that secondary ball handler on that team. I know Glock mentioned a Lindy Waters, where like you can do a Vic Krejci or a Lindy Waters, like a full punted shooting guard if you want to. He kind of reminds me of last year's OKC Thunder guy, Charlie Brown. Like, it's like, I don't really want to play you, but if I need a punt and like you're just 3K and you're getting 25 minutes, it could work out. You just need those other top end shooting guards not to have big games, or the other studs that you spend up for instead to have the big games. Like if you play an Embiid, well, if you play Embiid, you might now want to spend down at your shooting guard spot. That might be a smart idea. If you play Embiid, maybe don't play Booker with it unless it works out salary-wise, you're able to, but that might just be a way to be able to kind of balance out your salary a little bit and give you a different kind of construction than the field. So you can take shots on that. But again, the Trey Man news is kind of important for all that stuff, in my opinion. I also think Baisley and Roby, two guys I put on the cash chart, like they're kind of filler pieces, not guys I'd be prioritizing in cash games, but last pieces that kind of fill into your lineups. I don't hate it. Steven Adams at 6K, a little revenge game for him, but I don't know. Steven Adams, I just don't think I can do it the 6K price tag with the way the center position is. Get another guy I put on the cash chart. If he was like a last guy in, I'd be fine with it, but I'm not prioritizing him. And I don't think I'm prioritizing Ja at 10-4. I think there's like enough studs on this slate. Like I kind of heard when Glock was talking, he said, yeah, if you want to go overweight on Embiid and Harden, I think that those are two guys you have to. And then if you're looking for a fade, like you just can't play every stud. I keep like, well, now I'm going to play Ja. Now I'm going to play SGA for 15%. Now I'll play Halliburton for 15. You're going to have to fade some stud. And like Ja seems like one that maybe I can get away with today, especially with how good that Memphis bench is. I could see them getting out in front in 3 quarters. Maybe Ja has like a 50 point fantasy game, and that's still fine, but there's other studs that you can play instead. So I feel better about fading Ja. And then even SGA, I might kind of stay off of, just because I just know how good Memphis is, man. Like that second unit destroys teams, and actually good teams. Like, what are they going to do to Vic Krejci and Lindy Waters? I mean, it's going to be bad. So I do feel confident in kind of staying away from this game unless you're really cheap. That's kind of my strategy here. That way I don't lose your rotation, or maybe play the guys that are also getting the starter run or like really good usage on the second unit, and will also get the blowout run. That's kind of the approach I'm taking with this game in tournaments.
Yeah, before we move on, Title, one thing I wanted to say, like, I will say I prefer Lindy Waters much more than Aaron Wiggins. Like, if you look at Aaron Wiggins' price on DK, 4.8K, like that's we were big.
So big difference with those two, and I'll explain why, Glock. One is small forward eligible, and the other is shooting guard. So there is a little bit of a difference there, but I get it. I do think that Aaron Wiggins really slid into that like usage guy rather than Waters, and I kind of like that. Like, no one's like kind of talking about him. Cause I looked last night and I was like really interested in him, even at the price. Cause I thought if he gets that secondary ball handler role in OKC, we've seen it so many times. We saw it with Lou Dort. We saw it with Giddey. We've seen it so many times where I would maybe take the shot, but I understand doing the pay down at shooting guard if it helps get you more. I would really want to know what the 2v2 or 3v3 is to make the final decision.
Yeah, I was just saying, because like we were struggling clicking on Aaron Wiggins' name in the 3 low Ks, right? It was just like, man, do we really want to play this guy that plays 30 minutes? And but yeah, Trey Man is out. He had a big game last game, 46.75 fantasy points. You know, if he continues that same streak of usage, then yeah, I think he's a fine play at 4.8. It just like when you were bringing him up, I looked up his price and I was like, holy moly, Aaron Wiggins at 4.8. This is crazy.
Just go to Popcorn Machine and look at his rotation, and then like you might be more excited, because that's what got me over the hump. I like actually looked at it and I was like, okay, I felt more confident in it. Which again, like it doesn't feel great, but I definitely was more interested. But I need Trey Man out. That's going to be very key.
Yeah, he shot 19 times that game. So yeah, that's double, like triple as much as he's been shooting in the past. So that's definitely a good sign for sure.
Yeah, I think you would need him out too. I didn't watch that Timberwolves OKC game, so like I don't know how it necessarily went, but you see 38 minutes, 25% usage rate, and he chucked the ball 19 times. So
and he got the blowout run too. He played the whole fourth, and it's like he also started, right? So like if he's starter proof and blowout proof, which like I look for ways when I can't predict what's going to happen. If I could tell you the score of the OKC Memphis game, I'd go to the FanDuel Sportsbook and I'd, put the exact score and win some insane like amount of money on it. But I can tell you that I feel confident that he's playing in either route, where if Trey Mann is out, he's going to play in blowout. He's going to play if it's close. And if it is close, he's probably part of it being close because they need a secondary ball handler to get the job done. So, and of course, yeah, if it's like Doug McDermott, he rolls his ankle, what can I do? Right. That happened yesterday. That happens all the time. But the if-then scenarios are the things that I really like to think through. And that's kind of one that I thought through with this game.
No, yeah, I think it makes a little sense. If Mann's out, they're down to 9 bodies. OKC is pretty thin, so I think it makes some sense. And we're talking about spreads and how we're a little scared of it. I'll just go through all 5 games in the spreads. Philly's favored by 11 in the first game. Memphis 13.5. The Hawks are favored by 12 in the next game. Pelicans 6.5. And then the Suns are 8.5 point favorites. So we're expecting a decent, double-digit spreads is a lot in the NBA. It looks like there could be a decent amount of blowouts or possibilities for it. So game stacking and try and get the game that does stay close, maybe hit overtime, games that get full run if one stays close and 4 blow out or whatever. So it's a very interesting slate, and I think it's a pretty fun one from game theory-wise. But that's the first 2 games of the slate. 162 watching, 58 likes. I'm not going to set a number. It's a Sunday. All you guys, the true grinders out there trying to make some money in the NBA streets in March. We appreciate you for sure. Hit that like button though. And then Players 33 gets you 33% off of your first month. Hit that big red subscribe button while you're at it too. Next game on the slate, the Indiana Pacers, the Atlanta Hawks, 237 total. That's a big one. The Hawks are favored by 12. Going to the Pacers side, they got some injury news. Well, Brogdon out, Rubio out, Miles Turner out, McConnell out, TJ Warren out. Duarte, Goga, and Lance Stevenson are questionable though. And yeah, that's decent news on this slate. If all 3 of them are ruled out, even 2 of the 3 or something, it would change the slate a little bit with Brogdon already being out. Going to the Hawks side, John Collins questionable. Again, decent news in this game, and it locks at 7 p.m. Eastern, which why fading that first game might make a little sense since we won't have all this news, we don't think. Glock, I'll go over to you. Trae Young, I think he's a little interesting. Talking about Tyrese Halliburton's price before the show in YouTube chat, 9K. What are your thoughts on this game? And what does the injury news do for you, whether they're in, they're out?
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but the games that we've gone through, it just feels like the studs in each game are just the contrarian tournament pivots of the night, right? And like you touched on it before, some of these games have really big spreads, and there's like basically one that's somewhat close, which is the Houston New Orleans Pelicans game. So you kind of don't want to really overcomplicate the slate and, try to get too crazy with your build. But, on the Atlanta side, Trae Young's grading out as a great play. He's the cheapest technically of the studs in the 10K and above option at 10-1 on DraftKings. I think he's a fine play from Atlanta as like a last-in filler stud piece to your lineup. And then on the Indy side, Tyrese Halliburton, we're on him last night, kind of got there, didn't really smash his tag, but Atlanta doesn't play any defense. So I think he's firmly in play. Brogdon's out, so he's going to be the alpha of the offense. Triple-double upside every time he gets on the court. And he would even get a bigger boost with Chris Duarte out, right? So also on the Indy side, like if Chris Duarte is out, Buddy Hield becomes a great play. Someone else is probably going to also have to slide into the starting lineup, which, I'm curious to what you guys think. But like if Chris Duarte misses, who do you guys think starts? Do you think they just start bigger, or do you think they plug in someone like Dwayne Washington and kind of just have him spot up, shoot threes, kind of like it did last night?
Yeah, man. Now that's why I think fading the first game could make sense. Because if Duarte's out, like Dwayne Washington would make sense if they want to keep the position. Like he's the one that would, Terry Taylor, maybe. But like, I'd be surprised, like Jalen Smith, Isaiah Jackson, Brissett, like 3 bigs, that just wouldn't make sense. Goga, I feel like that wouldn't make sense. So I think it'd have to be Washington or Terry Taylor. Washington would be my lean, but Lance Stevenson could be out too. Like, yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, Travis Duarte in the chat says Brissett, but he's been starting. So I think they could, if they want to start bigger, which they could against Atlanta with John Collins and Capella, they could start Brissett, like, at the wing and then kind of bring in like a Jalen Smith or something like that. But yeah, just something to keep in mind. We need to wait on the news. I'm not sure if we'll have it before lock. So it's just something you got to keep an eye on, which, kind of gives you more reason, like Title said, to even fade that first game, just so you have the flexibility, right? If you lock up your center position with Embiid, then, you're already sacrificing that spot with not much flexibility later. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. I think from this game, Trae Young from the Atlanta side, and then Tyrese Halliburton from Indiana. I think Buddy Hield can be considered in tournaments for sure, especially if Chris Duarte is out. And then, yeah, just based on the Chris Duarte news, could open up some value for us, which we don't currently have on the slate.
Yeah, that good breakdown there. And Duarte, I don't know if you were saying that you liked Brissett in chat or if you were saying he's going to start, but yeah, he's been starting. So that wouldn't change. If Duarte's out, it's Isaiah Jackson. It's him. It's Tyrese Halliburton. It's Buddy Hield. So they would need the fourth. But yeah, it'd be interesting, man. I'll go to you. Talk about this game. And who do you think it would be if Duarte's out? Do you have a lean on who would slide in the starting lineup and talk about this game?
Yeah, I don't know if it's definitely Dwayne Washington.
It's not. I don't think it's definitely anybody.
I'm trying to think. I don't know how much is Terry Taylor. He hasn't really even been playing, so I don't know.
That's the thing. Yeah,
he's 3-3. He's 3-3.
I think they might do the Jalen Smith thing, and then just slide Brissett to the 3. I could see that for sure. But I don't know. I mean, that's obviously something we have to wait on. That's why it's important. So
I will say though, if Goga was ruled out, I'd be shocked to see that because they wouldn't really have a big off the bench then. So Goga would have to be in, you'd think.
And it might be Taylor. Taylor honestly might just, or even Lance Stevenson. I could see Lance slide in there if he had.
And he's questionable too. So
yeah.
They love bringing him off the bench though. But yeah, who knows at this point?
Yeah, it could be even Kiefer Sykes, right? Kiefer would make some sense too. He's kind of like when Armani Brooks started for the Raptors yesterday. It didn't make a lot of sense, but you're just kind of shocked. Kiefer Sykes could happen. And that's why we got to wait for this news. I think it's important. And there's also news on the other side that matters, John Collins. If John Collins doesn't play well, 4.5K Danilo Gallinari kind of has me interested, especially against the Pacers. It doesn't sound like a great value, but he could easily go for 30 to 35 fantasy points at 4.5K and be one of those winning values. Instead of playing JaVale McGee, who could easily just get you 20 fantasy points. Gallinari could be the winner of GVPs at 4.5K at that power forward position. I know they're not the same position, him and McGee, but you get the point I'm saying. He could definitely be a value that pops up that's really intriguing. Definitely could help a guy like Hunter too, because they might need him in there more to kind of play some defense on those some of those guards on the wing, like a Buddy Hield who's going to play a pile of minutes. So I think DeAndre Hunter could be intriguing at times, or even, they could even put Hunter sometimes on Halliburton. It sounds crazy, but they definitely could do that at times. But yeah, I think that overall, this is a game that I want to get exposure to, I think, but I need the news to fall right. If the news doesn't fall right, let's say it all falls, that all those guys are in, I'm still interested in Trae Young at 10.1K. He's actually a really good stud, in my opinion here. 237 total. This game is trended upwards. Indiana on the second night of the back-to-back. And Trae Young, man, he can get hot. And 10.1K, definitely going to be a good option for me. And if John Collins doesn't sit, Clint Capella is going to be a really great play at 5.9K, which is why I struggle a little bit with locking in Embiid. So I think waiting on that news is really, really important.
Yeah, good points for sure. Robert in chat said Terry been a beast on rebounds. Yeah, I mean, Terry Taylor, he plays much bigger than he is. I'm kind of fond of his game. The rebounds are there, offensive rebounds, putback. So if he starts, yeah, you would want a piece of Terry Taylor for sure. He'd be very good value, but who knows if he's going to start? Who knows how this news does break? Next game on the slate, though, that's 3 of the 4 games. The game that we've all been waiting for, though, the story of the slate, the Houston Rockets, the New Orleans Pelicans. Big total, 231.5. The closest spread on the slate. The Pelicans are favored by 6.5. Go to the injury report. Kyra Lewis, Larry Nance, Zion, Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum are all out, which is why we have so much interest in this game. Going to the Houston Rockets side, they also have some injury news. Dennis Schroeder is questionable. It was a midday downgrade. Right before pretty much we came on the show, I saw that. Am I missing? Jayshawn Tate, he's playing, right, Glock?
He's in, yeah.
Yeah, Tate's in.
And Wood.
Yeah,
yep.
And Wood, right? Yeah, just Dennis Schroeder. So if he is out, I mean, we've seen they want to give their young guards, Jalen Green, KPJ, they want to give them all the run anyway. So I think they'd be fine plays. K. Fallon probably likes him more than all 3 of us will, but it makes sense. I think they are solid plays. Jayshawn Tate, I think the price is okay. And we're going to have a ton of interest on the Pelicans on both sides. We did talk about the price. Glockout did come up a little bit, but without their best two players, Ingram and McCollum, you're going to have some interest. So talk about it, Glock. It's the game of the night for sure, but how many is too many, since we get that question a lot? Any run backs for you? Talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I love this game for sure, and I know most will. But when you look at ownership, it's mostly condensing on the New Orleans side, and like we always cover, like on the up to lock show. One thing that a lot of players don't do is they don't correlate with the chalk, right? And so, like, if you have 3 or 4 Pelicans guys tonight, and you expect it to be a close game, obviously someone on the Houston side should be having a good performance, right? And like, I'm just going down the list of these Houston players. They're all like sub 10% projected. So, my thought is to stack up this game and run it back with at least one Houston option. I think injury news that I'm going to keep an eye on is the Dennis Schroeder news, because I think, like, if he's out, that just boosts the minute stealings on Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, and then even Josh Christopher would get more minutes for sure. He's been playing great for them off the bench. So, yeah, I mean, I think, like, you could have interest in all these New Orleans guys: Jonas Valanciunas, Devante Graham, Jackson Hayes, Herbert Jones, Najee Marshall. But I would personally be careful how you group them together in your lineup, right? It's like, personally, I wouldn't want Jonas Valanciunas, Herbert Jones, and Jackson Hayes in the same lineup. Like, maybe I would max 2 of those big guys, because, all 3 of them are competing for boards. And, if one gets in foul trouble, the other one's going to go off. So they kind of negatively correlate, in my opinion. I mean, and you could even take it further with Najee Marshall. He can score, but he also needs rebound upside. So, yeah, I think you need to keep in mind how you structure your lineup and which guys you pair together. But, overall, I love this game from a game stack perspective. I think it's going to be closer than the spread indicates. And yeah, just be mindful of who you pair together, how many of them. And then I think, just to make your lineup different, when you run the optos, there's not really many Houston guys popping, like I said earlier. So correlating a guy or two with them is really interesting for me tonight.
Who would you say your favorite run backs are if Schroeder was in or if he's out? So both scenarios, what would your favorite, or two, you can say, favorite run backs be?
Yeah, so I think if Schroeder's out, I think my favorite is Jalen Green. 5,800 is just super cheap tag on him. He's been playing well apart from last game, and he seems to be playing in the blowout. So I think Jalen Green would be my favorite if Schroeder's out. And, I think, honestly, if we don't get any limitations like on Christian Wood or anywhere that he'll be limited, 7-9 for Christian Wood is interesting for tournaments for me if Schroeder is in, because his usage won't get taken away from, right? Even if Schroeder's in, he's the big man. He's gonna eat down on the block. So I think Wood would be my favorite if Schroeder's in, and then Jalen Green would be my favorite if Schroeder's out from the Houston side.
I like it, man. Going, I'll head over to you. I mean, there's so many good plays on the Pelican side. Trey Murphy absolutely went ham last game. Najee Marshall slid into the starting lineup. He went ham. Pretty much everyone had good games except Joe Val, who didn't get any run in the fourth quarter. The game got away a little bit. But how many Pelicans is too many? Is that what I'll ask you, Mangone? And any run backs for you? Would you make sure to jam them in tournaments? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the Pelican side is really intriguing. I think that, like, you see a lot of teams right now. I think this is at this time. It can easily change in 10 minutes, 5 minutes. It can change in 35 minutes. But I like the idea of only playing 3 Pelicans, because most are playing 4. So, like, you're already just being instantly different in that way. And you're still getting exposure to the Pelicans. Like, you're not fading like the really good team. Like, you're still getting exposure. It's still a smart build. You look at the winning team yesterday, and at least I know in like some of the GBVs that I looked at, it was 3 Spurs and it was Jordan Clarkson. You needed Jordan Clarkson with that 54 that he had. Whiteside, again, you got that news that all came and like that helped with it. But the point I'm getting at is, you don't always have to just jam in the 4 or 5 guys that are pushing in the opto. Just do 3. It's okay. Like, yes, does it feel uncomfortable? You have to fade one of those guys? Sure. But I don't think it's a bad way to go. One thing to mention with the Rockets, like Big T at the live final, I know he had Maxi Kleber and he had Dwight Powell together. Now, I kind of agreed with like Glock. I know you didn't like say it, but this is what kind of came in my head. I was like, I don't know if I would have played both together. I mean, I shouldn't be talking. I'm the one who wasn't in Nashville, but so sometimes I think I've noticed Big T does this a little bit, is he just says, I don't know which one's going to be the guy, right? But both could get there. And I honestly think you could do that on this slate, especially with so many big spreads. I think you could make the argument that because it's a shorter slate, and also that slate that Big T did play on in the final was shorter than the other one. You took 3 games off. I think it turned into a 6-game slate. You could argue play Jackson Hayes and play Valanciunas and say, I don't have to guess which one it is. I don't have to deal with that game, and I can move on. Now, if you're playing a big, large field tournament where it's like you got to beat like 30,000 people, it's a little different. Now, if you're in the smaller fields, kind of interested. I think that's the strategy and approach I would take with that. Devante Graham is 6'1", and I see him popping on a lot of teams. And don't get me wrong, Devante Graham, I like him today. I think he can have a great game, but 6'1", you can bust at that, right? Sengun on Friday night, he was 6.1K. I was up. Oh, you can't fade him. He got 21 fantasy points. Like, that's one example. I just came up with it on the top of my head. It can happen. But if you do that, you need to find other shooting guard or other point guards that you think can really outperform. Maybe it's like a double spend up at the point guard position. Maybe it's going like a John Morant and a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for correlation. Again, something I said I wasn't going to do. I'm just using it as an example. Find ways to make your Devante Graham fade sharp. And if you do fade a Devante Graham, maybe it's for, I believe he's still in today. So Jose Alvarado, right? Is he out?
He's in. He's in.
Okay. For some reason, I thought I read someone said he wasn't, but I didn't want to sound like an idiot, but find the guy that could be like the contrarian pivot. Like, for instance, Najee Marshall, like, he had a great game. You saw Valanciunas, he didn't do well. One reason Valanciunas didn't do well was you saw that those other wing players played well and they got time at the 4 against Charlotte. Like, so think through the scenarios that are going to happen. Like, let's say that the Rockets go with the double big route of Christian Wood and Sengun. Well, then you're going to see more Jackson Hayes style lineups. So maybe that hurts those forwards. So that's why these starting lineups are really important. And you have to make that quick snap decision on it when you kind of get that news. You need to prepare for it. So that's going to be really important on this slate. I do want to talk about Valanciunas' price tag. I played him at 7-8 the other day. You know, he busted. Just shows guys at 8-3 can bust, right? Like, you can get away with the fade, but you got to make sure there's other guys that you can play there and have a strategy with it. 8-3, I like Valanciunas. He's a good option. I'm going to have exposure. Just don't know how much yet, but I will definitely, I don't think I'll be all in though. I'll have some though, no doubt. And I didn't talk about the Rockets yet too much. I think, Title, going back to your point, this is just a fun exercise to do because I do this every single time we have the Rockets. Name me the guards on the Rockets. Just name them, Title. Like how many are there? Because there aren't any. Like, that's why those guys play so many minutes. Like, who will play point guard and shooting guard that's not named Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, and like Dennis Schroeder?
Garrison Matthews and your boy John Christopher.
Yeah, John. We call him John on this show, by the way, not Josh. I heard that, Glock. You pronounce his name wrong. But and that's the thing. They might not even play the 2. They might play the 3 sometimes as well. So that's why those minutes are like so safe and secure that I like a lot. And we should call out, I like this as like a really contrarian play. Like, no one's going to own this guy. It's a revenge game too. Christian Wood at 7-9. Like, and it feels uncomfortable first game back. It was just an illness. So he was probably just sitting on the couch, maybe had a bad Taco Bell or something. He's good to go now. And it's a revenge game against the Pelicans. He definitely will want to show out, I think, in that game. So yeah, I'm definitely in on this one. I like the idea of, let's say you do fade a Valanciunas and you play a lot of Pelicans. Maybe do it with Christian Wood, and Christian Wood gets Valanciunas in some foul trouble at times. You just don't know. Starting lineups are going to be very, very key with this game, though. The Rockets are good plays. They're not as great as they were in the past because of some of these new guys that are back in the lineup. But for me, the safest guys are the guards, especially Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. And then Christian Wood is my really like sharp contrarian tournament play.
No, yeah, I think all that makes sense.
One thing I want to say before we move on, Title. I will say, I think tonight you will need one of Jackson Hayes or Valanciunas. I think you need a New Orleans big in your lineup, because if you look at Houston and what they've given up to bigs as of late, 50 fantasy points to Dwight Powell. Like, just imagine that. 50 fantasy points to Dwight Powell, 55 to Steven Adams. Like, these Houston Rockets do not know how to guard the big man. So I do think fantasy points will like come from that position. It's just choosing whether or not you want Jackson Hayes or Joe Val. You know, honestly, I think Joe Val is my preferred target because, you know, people will look at his game log from last game. He did horrible. And he got a price increase. So, and he's looking as the lowest owned New Orleans starter. So I think he's a great option tonight. Bigs just eat against Houston. So that's just what I wanted to say before we move on.
Yeah, JSU's been talking about it for weeks. I mean, pretty much every position eats against them, but it's specifically big men. So that's for sure. People in chat, let me know. John Collins is ruled out. Either of you two, obviously the news just hit, talked a little bit about it. Capella gets a little boost. I think Okongwu gets a little boost off the bench. Are we going to play him at 3-2? I mean, we're considering JaVale McGee on this slate. So does Okongwu get a big enough bump? Gallo maybe has to play a little bigger. Mangone, Glock, any initial thoughts on John Collins being ruled out?
Yeah, so I think I can play Danilo Gallinari if he starts over Aaron Wiggins now. Makes that decision a little easier, I think, personally, if he starts. But yeah, I think DeAndre Hunter gets a boost as well. He's small forward, same position as Wiggins, and he's cheaper. So I think those wings get a boost, the bigger-ish guys. So, yeah, I think we have some better value now than what we did before now that Collins is out.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Gallo start at the 4 when Collins was out, so that'd be what I expect. Mangone, Gallo, is he firmly in play for you now? Is he going to go on the cash chart with this news, or you taking anything from this news?
Yeah, I'm trying to look up something with this real quick because I think I can find it fast enough, but I'm trying to spell a Kongwu's name, which is the difficult part. It stalled for me for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, no, while you're doing that, I'm going to start going to the next game. I'm going to talk to Glock first about it. And then when I come to you, you're going to break down this whole situation and then break down that last game too. But last game on the slate, before I do that though, 202 watching, 74 likes. Not setting a number, but 100 should be pretty easy to get. That big red subscribe button too. Then players 33% off your first month. Using Saber Sim as well is included if you want it. Run Pure Sports, check it out. Saber Sim and RPS, 33% off. Players 33 is the code. Last game on the slate, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Phoenix Suns, 230.5 total. Phoenix is favored by 8.5. On the Lakers side, LeBron is questionable. THT is questionable. Anthony Davis out. Kendrick Nunn out. Obviously, it's the last game by 2 hours. We're probably not going to have this LeBron news. All three of us, I think, are going to say we're just going to assume he plays. And if not, you got to find pivots. That's how I'm approaching it, at least. As far as the Phoenix side, Cam Johnson, Frank the Tank, Dario Saric, Chris Paul are out. So nothing has changed there, really. Yeah, I mean, Devin Booker, LeBron, I think it could be a fun game. LeBron's absolutely been playing good ball. Devin Booker without CP3 makes sense. JaVale McGee's popping a little bit. I have interest in DeAndre Ayton. I mean, Dwight Howard hasn't played the past 2 games. I think it's going to be a LeBron at the 5 again is how they start. And Ayton should absolutely dominate down low. And if the backup's projecting and popping a little bit, DeAndre Ayton's going to be overlooked, I think. So that's how I'm approaching it for tournaments. He always played D-book. He's a stud. Lakers don't play any defense. Glock, what do you see in this game?
Yeah, so it's really like the other games. Like on this slate, when I run the opto, it seems like, you know, you're getting one-offs of like Trae Young and Devin Booker, right? So like the way I plan to get different with my build is probably just to correlate stars from the game, right? So if you look at the slate, you have Indiana, Atlanta, so you could easily go Halliburton, Trae, right? Memphis, OKC, Josh, Shea, like Mango was saying. And then this last late game hammer, LeBron and Devin Booker. I mean, you can't really deny what LeBron's doing. 3 straight 70 fantasy points performances in a row. You know, he's really trying his best. And granted, it was against worse competition than the Phoenix Suns. So that is something you have to keep in mind, like about the blowout potential and, you know, what Phoenix can really do, shut down LeBron with Mikal Bridges and whatnot. So in my mind, that's like a contrarian mini stack that I have in my head. And yeah, I don't know if I can pay 7.2 for Ayton. I don't know if I could pay 7.4 for Campaign. I think I would rather just play the blowout script, pick the cheaper guy in JaVale McGee, who would like crush in that, you know, when the Lakers are or the Phoenix Suns are pulling away, JaVale's in the game, just mopping up the boards, you know, increasing their lead. So I think on the Phoenix side, my only interest would be Devin Booker and JaVale McGee. And then as always on the Lakers, it's just LeBron or bust for me. But yeah, definitely have a plan. If you do have LeBron James in your lineup, you know, he's gotten ruled out surprisingly 1 time so far this year. You'd expect he plays here, you know, against Phoenix, but you never know. So that's one thing I always want to say. Just have a plan just in case he gets ruled out. Have your pivots in mind if he's out, and then who you're going to go to. So yeah, just LeBron or nothing on the Lakers side. But the blowout is definitely something I'm keeping on my mind for sure.
Yep, good points. And there is no chance we will be playing Aaron Wiggins anymore, where Trey Mann is in. And not only that, Aaron Wiggins is also ruled out. So news is starting to come in a little bit. Mango, I'll head over to you. You dove into the Kongwu and the Atlanta side. Talk about what you find there. Aaron Wiggins, now that he's out, is Trey Mann an interesting play? Thoughts on that? Actually, Glock, you look into that OKC side. It's not the biggest news, but if the Aaron Wiggins news does anything, yeah, I'll come to you and you tell us about that. Man, go talk about the Hawks, what you found, and then talk about this game.
Yeah, so I pulled up like the game logs without John Collins to see, and like, all right, last game, I mean, Okongwu had like 7 minutes only, right? It was against Boston. It was like a blowout, whatever. But the other games, 34.75, 22, 24.5, 13.25, 10.75, 22.75. That's, and then 14.5, like that's all in 2022. So very wide range of outcomes. He's 3.2K. I don't need to go there, especially he's a center, right? That's one of the issues I have. Unless he's got that forward eligibility, I don't need to go there. Clint Capella's, I'll go through his. This is like 32, 20, 23, 40, 24, 21, 30, 38. Like it's more of a wider range. And even at 5'9", like, I don't know, like I think you could get away with not playing him as much as I was thinking before. I still do think it's a good spot. Matchups do matter. It's the Pacers, right? So it's some of the better matchups compared to some of these others I'm looking at. It's like the Bulls game. They play the Bulls, Boston, Orlando, Chicago. So like, it's not all the easiest spots in the world. So that's actually worth mentioning as well. But I like Capella probably more than Okongwu. I just have some worries about him. And then Gallinari's numbers, his are kind of like the more steady ones. And he's power forward eligible, right? He had like 20, 26, 19, 38, 20, 33, just some really decent ranges that he had. He even hit 40 at one point. So I kind of like going to Gallinari more, also because of positions as well. And then Glock, you'll appreciate this. This one's just for you. So everyone look at Glock. He's going to laugh, but you look at Trae Young's numbers. He had 68, he had 42, 66, 32, 38, 60, very wide range. And you think, I said to myself, well, let's see, are they because they blew out, right? Maybe without John Collins, it didn't work out, but Glock, they played the Orlando Magic. And can you imagine that Trae Young played against the Orlando Magic, had 130 points, the Hawks, and Trae Young had 39 fantasy points. So if you think Trae Young is just unfadable in a blowout scenario where he's going to get all the points, that's not the case, Glock. He can fail.
He can fail, yeah, but he also has a ceiling, as we've seen. That's good breakdown on that game for sure, though. Mangone, though, what do you see in this Lakers and Suns game? D-Book, obviously, probably going to get some ownership. LeBron with the Q tag, we expect him to play, but who knows? It's on an island 2 hours after, but what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'll just address the OKC thing quick. I think Trey Man's going to be a really good play at 5'5". That's all I'll give you for now. Like maybe a Krejci or some of those other guys could pop out. We did just get Dennis Schroeder ruled out, so shooting guard has gotten a little better. That's going to be good for Jalen Green. I believe he still has that eligibility. Kevin Porter Jr. should not have that eligibility. So if I had to pick one or the other, it's probably going to be Jalen Green.
I don't know why they like FanDuel had the point guard, small forward. I don't know if DraftKings still does, but that makes no sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And like, unless you want like 100% Devin Booker, then like, yeah, then you might not want Jalen Green as much. But if you're playing like 150 lineups, like it'll make sense to go more Jalen Green over Kevin Porter Jr., but that could reflect in ownership as well. So it just depends. But I do think these guards get a nice little bump, and maybe our boy John Christopher gets a bump out of nowhere. That would not surprise me a little bit. But yeah, I think the OKC side, Trey Mann is a guy that I like, but let's now finally dive into the Suns and Lakers. I'm not really excited to roster the Lakers that much. I do think you can make an argument, like if you put LeBron in there, like try to at least like have it in the utility spot if you can. That way you can kind of switch to a Devin Booker. The one argument for a LeBron on this slate is positions. Like the issue I have with the position sometimes, like look at small forward today. So like DraftKings has been like a lot tighter with some of their positions. Like you're just mentioning, like you don't have Kevin Porter Jr. being shooting guard eligible. Like Buddy Hield is the most expensive small forward on the slate. Like that's just like the weird thing about it. LeBron, he's 11.8 at power forward. And then Wendell Carter Jr. is your 7.3K option as the next one. So like, he's also center eligible, so you can slide him over there if you want to as well. But the point I'm getting at is like, let's say you do spend down at like guards and other positions. Like if you spend down at the guard and you spend down at the shooting guard, you can't really spend that much at small forward. You might have to spend on LeBron. So you might get stuck having to put him in that spot where you don't have as great of a pivot. So that's just worth calling out. But LeBron is in a good spot. He could easily have a huge ceiling game. If he happened to sit, like, again, I'd like to have the flexibility to go to a Devin Booker or go to a Russell Westbrook, but I don't know if I'll have that flexibility. It just might be a chance you have to take in tournaments, and that should reflect in ownership because I don't see LeBron on like any of the teams right now. So obviously that can change though with some of the news that we just got hit with, but the two best plays in this game, like raw points wise, it's Devin Booker and it's LeBron James. I'm curious what Cam Payne's ownership will be because like the dude's been balling, and DC said it like maybe like 5 days ago, like he's in the Chris Paul role and he's got like just a cheaper version of Chris Paul. And yes, he's not Chris Paul, right? Like if it was a playoff game, I would rather have Chris Paul over Cam Payne. But in the NBA regular season, his production is enough where at that tag, if he's 1% owned, it's not a bad tournament play. It doesn't take that much you have to get overweight on it. So I like the idea of doing that. I'm not as excited about DeAndre Ayton. I think he can have a good game, but I do think that like LeBron at the 5 could really mess with Ayton a little bit too much. So I think he can definitely get him into some foul trouble at times, and you can just see Ayton get frustrated, and Payne isn't the guy that's going to be setting him up for assists like Chris Paul does and putting him in the best position. So I do think that Ayton is not my favorite. And then I'm not really looking to play Westbrook. It just seems like a rough spot. If I played a guard on the Lakers, I'd feel more excited about playing Malik Monk right now, especially with LeBron at the 5, because He creates that spacing, gets you the open three. The problem is he's playing against the Suns. This is not really a team to attack too much. So not really that excited about playing the Lakers. And yes, it is an 8.5 point spread, which that's better than some of the other ones. But one of the things I look at on this slate is I'm like, okay, we got this Suns team that they've been blowing teams out. They've been really good still. And this Lakers team, they're one of the most overvalued teams in Vegas. Like that 8.5 might not even be the correct number. They could lose by double digits.
Yeah, now that you say that, I'm probably going to put some cheese on the Suns. I mean, it doesn't, like Chris Paul out, Cam Johnson out, like they're just so well coached and play good team basketball with a deep roster. That's why someone asked me a couple, like last week or something, would you take, it's 9.5. The Bucks are favored over the Suns by 9.5, like no CP3 and all this stuff. I'm like, I'm not laying that much against the Suns with any team. And I don't care who they have, just because the Suns are, you know, they're going to come up, they're going to show up. And the Lakers, you do not know what you're going to see from them. So I think a blowout definitely in the realm of possibilities. And if it stays close, you expect LeBron to probably go for his 4th consecutive 70-point piece for DFS, since he's the only one that's doing stuff for this team. Glock, I'm going to head over to you, though. I asked you about the OKC stuff to look into it quick. Josh in chat said thoughts on Lindy Waters now. I think the starting lineup's important. Whoever starts for Aaron Wiggins, I think gets the biggest bump. But how do you see it quick?
Yeah, one thing about that Lakers game, before we move on to the OKC side, I think like the problem with having that island game by itself is like, in order to like optimally late swap, you need like 2 or 3 positions in your lineup, right? Because you don't want a one for, like, let's say you do have LeBron and Util, like Mangone said, you don't really want a 1-for-1 swap for Booker, like LeBron for Devin Booker, and then you leave like 3K on the table. Obviously,
so
that's
you wouldn't, like today, you would not build a lineup with just LeBron as the last. You're not confident enough to be like, yeah, if he's out, I'm probably gonna lose, but
yeah, that's definitely like anytime I'm planning for like later news, like a late slate type of swap, I always want to have a few pieces so I can swap around. So like for one example, you have Devin Booker, LeBron, and then like a McGee, right? You have 3 pieces that you could change around for the late night, you know, if LeBron gets ruled out. But yeah, that's just something to keep in mind for that late game. In regards to the OKC lineup, so last game, Baisley started, Wiggins, SGA, Lindy Waters, and Roby. I assume Trey Mann's just going to jump in there in place of Wiggins. And, you know, Lindy Waters should get the start. And if that's the case, I do have interest in him. You know, he does seem to be blowout proof. He played 35 minutes last game. So yeah, I like Lindy Waters as a value play. I think Trey Mann also becomes a good play, just as Mangone said, he becomes like the secondary usage hog on OKC. So I think those 3 guys would be of my interest, Trey Mann, SGA, and then Lindy Waters. And then, you know, I probably won't go into the bench like with like a Theo Maledon or Vich Krejci or something like that. I think we have good value now in Atlanta as well. So we really don't have to dig that deep.
Yeah, good breakdown. I do think Waters will start now that you said it and I look into it. So yeah, there's a little more value on the slate. We talked about a Schroeder out. We talked about the guards getting a little bump there. We got some news on this slate. The Magic guys are in, so you can fade that game more comfortably. John Collins out, the Capella, the Gallo stuff. So in Discord, people are breaking down the news, AP in there, K-Falic answering questions too. But that's all 5 games for us. Pretty good breakdowns. It's time for the plays of the day, though. And Glock, I am not sure the name of your play of the day, so you're gonna have to remind me before we go to you.
Yeah, I don't think there is one yet. I was trying to get chat to come up with one, and you know, maybe like a good catchy one. Well, if someone mentions something that you know, catches on, then we can make it my play of the day name. But
we can't force it. It'll come in a matter of time. At least I didn't forget. But Glock,
I'm definitely team don't force it, but like the early pick is like Glock's lock, but like that's not good enough. I mean, like that's like ordering a plain slice of pizza. Like everyone likes a plain slice of pizza, but you always gotta get a topping. Come on, like so we'll get it right.
Glock will give out a winner. We'll find the play of the day name in time, though.
Yeah, we got to let it come organically. I'm not going to force anything. But yeah, I mean, if we're going to go to my play of the day, Dennis Schroeder's out. So I'm going to go with Jalen Green. I don't think that'll boost his ownership that much. But, you know, just keep an eye on the ownership numbers. I think Jalen Green is my play of the day. I think he's going to crush. Great contrary run back with your New Orleans Pelicans chalk.
I like it for sure. I will go to myself with the SO play of the day. The 2 people on the panel didn't like him nearly as much as I do, which is a little concerning, but I'm going with DeAndre Ayton at 7.2K on DraftKings, 7K on FanDuel. I'm seeing about 10% ownership, it looks like. And like he just can't, LeBron can't guard him at the 5. Ayton's just too big at the end of the day. And LeBron, we know he wants to stay out of foul trouble. I think there's going to be easy buckets down low. really well coached team. I think they use the pick and roll. I think they use post ups. And I think we can see a big game from DeAndre Ayton. I do like to run back with LeBron too. I don't think people are going to do it. And you need this game to stay close for Ayton to absolutely smash. So DeAndre Ayton, the SO play of the day. Mangone, Sweet Travis play of the day. Cap it off for us.
Yeah, man, this is tough. Because like I think I'm gonna go with Trey Mann. I don't think he's gonna gain the ownership though. Like I don't think anyone wants to click on it.
That's definitely good.
Yeah. And I talked about shooting guard, and like I like how Glock went to Jalen Green. I think that's a really good play. But yeah, a lot of people are paying for Devin Booker. Don't get me wrong, like I want to pay for Devin Booker too. And I am going to probably have some Devin Booker, but I really like the idea of Trey Mann at 5.5K. I just like whoever that OKC secondary ball handler is. Like it could be Big T out there. Heck, I'd even roster Rubio, I think, is the secondary ball handler. Maybe I'd fall into 10 assists and he'd maybe grab a rebound or two. But I do think that Trey Mann at 5.5K is an interesting option. So I'm going to go with him as my contrarian guy that gets me to the finish line.
I like it for sure. Josh saying LeBron not playing the 5, Stanley Johnson is title. I mean, Stanley Johnson's definitely not guarding Ayton. I'm expecting LeBron to be the one.
Maybe he guards Ayton to like pick up a couple fouls early, but like LeBron is the 5. He's the guy that's helping down there. He's not standing in the corner like a 4, like a cone, just sitting there waiting for the ball to get to him. He's going down low. He's trying to get separation, and he's going to make that pass outside because he wants guys to double him in the post. Once they double, bang, 3-pointers in from Malik Monk.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really have a 5 at the end of the day. They just got 5 guys out there that can all handle the ball. I mean, when LeBron's playing the 5 or Stanley Johnson's playing the 5, you obviously know they're not running a true usual 5 starting lineup. So
the best point to be made, Title, is he's playing next to Stanley Johnson, which like that there's no usage there, right? Like so that's another important thing for his usage as well. It's why LeBron at the 5 is so great, because he plays with guys that aren't really handling the ball. There's no AD in there and Westbrook, where there's just too many guys sharing a basketball.
Yeah, I mean, he was more saying that for my play of the day, Ayton against LeBron, okay, which I was saying. So he was saying Stanley at the 5. He said he's even worse defender. Who knows who it's going to be? But regardless, Ayton will have a big size and strength advantage in that matchup. But that was all 5 games. Again, 18 minutes, lock on FanDuel, on DraftKings, 1 game. Then we got 4 games after that. Yahoo locks at the normal time, 7 p.m. Eastern. All the content's up, playbook, core plays, cash chart. Make sure to always be looking for updates on that. We'll be in Discord answering any questions you guys might have as well. But that's going to do it for us. Hit that like, hit that subscribe on the way out. Players 33 gets you 33% off your first month. Head over to Run Pure Sports. Check it out. Appreciate you guys all hanging out with us. Wish you the best of luck tonight. That's going to do it, though. For Glock, Mangone, Simon behind the sticks. I'm Titletown. Good luck, everybody.